Hello and welcome to Boozy Book Reports, a simple podcast where we revisit childhood classics whilst drinking copious amounts of alcohol. We're your hosts, Beth
and Sam.
And this month we're reporting on Remember Me by Christopher Pike, first published in 1989.
That was the year I was born.
Oh, that was the year I was in third grade. Just quick, before we even start anything, I just want to give a quick trigger warning that there are mentions of murder and suicide in this book. So if that bothers you, stop now. You've been warned. Let's get into the drinks. Sam made us 2 doozies.
Yeah. So these both are kind of inspired by the book because, that's kind of what we do here. Sherry, our girl Sherry, the
Sherry Cooper,
the main character, little SoCal girl. In 1989, we thought that she might be kind of a fancy girl. She is kind of a fancy girl. She gets like a Ferrari.
I know, she's a rich girl.
Yeah. So we thought, here in a couple of years, she's going to be into Sex in the City. She'll be like in her early 20s.
She will identify with Carrie.
Yes.
Well, if she was alive.
Well, from heaven, she will identify. Had she lived, she would have identified with Carrie. So we went ahead with a classic Cosmo, little pink drink. So yeah, we also did a sugared rim. Beth, you gave me these sugars. It was like a coconut berry sugar.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah.
And for those of us out there that are not drinkers, what is in a Cosmo?
Yeah, so it's a cranberry juice cocktail. So there's cranberry juice, there's lime juice, there's vodka, and a little bit of Cointreau or like an orange liqueur.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And then why is this one so sparkly?
Oh, so my friend Boyana gave me some edible glitter, which I thought kind of went along with the theme.
Oh, yes.
So, because she's a fancy girl, she'd probably like a sparkle drink. So, yeah, made a little sparkly drink. So,
cheers.
Cheers.
Yummy.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's delicious. I don't taste the alcohol, which is dangerous.
Yeah, there's a lot of alcohol in this, so.
Go slow.
Yeah, sipper.
So apologies in advance for the slurred words and the incoherent talk later.
It's just the glitter.
Okay, and then the second drink is kind of like I call it pinkish, a pink drink.
Yeah, so this is a twist on a dark and stormy. So this is something we actually serve at my house. Like I have a little cocktail menu at my house.
It is very true. And it's like laminated, right?
No, I just shoved it in a binder like sleeve.
Oh, okay.
It's mostly so you don't dribble on it.
Yeah. And let me just say, because I've been to Ham's house many times.
Yeah.
It is an extensive list. And with lots of options for different liquors and all kinds of things.
Yeah. So this sort of happened during the whole cocktail thing really did start during the pandemic for us. Because I don't know if I've told this story before, but we made shots for each other. Kevin and I did.
I didn't know that.
Oh, it was so bad. Kevin made me one called A Song of Ice and Fire, and it was just Fireball and peppermint schnapps mixed together.
Inappropriate.
It was so gross. And so we were like, oh, we gotta like actually learn how to do this because we're so bad. I made him like one called like Breakfast, and it was like it was maple syrup and like that Pinnacle whipped cream vodka. It was terrible. So anyway, we started making our own cocktails. We watched a bunch of like videos and read some books about like what makes like a classic cocktail and what are the ratios. And so this one is one we make at our house. It's called a Stockholm Harbor. So, she gets murdered on a dark, stormy night, very mystery novel. So this is a twist on that. So instead of rum, we use Swedish punch, which is punch, which is sort of like a rum-like liqueur. It's actually, this will compensate for the Cosmo because this is low ABV.
Okay.
So it's punch, ginger beer. We added a splash of cranberry to it. Normally I would do lime juice, but pinky drinks. And then I garnished with a candied orange peel, also from Boyana.
Love it. Okay, Here we go. Freaking refreshing.
Isn't that good?
So good.
Yeah, this one's the one we make like when somebody's like, I have to drive later or something. This is the one I say, okay, if you want just like a little bit of alcohol, it's low ABV, it's good in the summer, it's a porch pounder.
Yes. I feel happy. I mean, I'm 3 sips in and technically a shot in too, but I'm good. I'm super excited for this.
Let's talk about this murdered girl.
It was a good book though. So, okay.
Yeah.
So Sam's going to read us the back of the book for those of you that haven't read this in a hot minute or have never heard of this story.
Yeah. I'd never heard of this one. I'd never read this, but she did not understand that she was dead. When Sherry Cooper awoke at home after being at her girlfriend's birthday party, her family acted like she wasn't there. They didn't hear a thing she said. They wouldn't even look at her. Then a call came from the hospital. Her father and brother paled. Her mother started to cry. Sherry didn't know what was wrong, not until she followed them to the hospital. There she found herself lying on a cold slab in the morgue. The police said it was suicide. Sherry knew she had been murdered. Making a vow to herself to find her killer, Sherry embarks on the strangest of all criminal investigations, one in which she spies on her old friends and even enters into their dreams, where she comes face to face with a nightmare from beyond the grave, the shadow, a thing more horrible than death itself, the key to Sherry's death, the only thing that can stop her murderer from murdering again. Oh, it's very like film noir.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And classic murder mystery.
Oh, yeah. And I totally read this book for the first time, probably when I was like, so it came out in 89. I was probably like 12, 13, 14.
Oh, perfect age for
and
this.
I fell in love with Christopher Pike books. Like I read The Witch, and they have one called like The Last Dance. And actually a lot of his books are series. So this is part 1 of a 3-part series.
Yeah.
I don't remember reading part 2 or 3, but I did read number 1. And I don't know why I loved these books.
Yeah.
Loved them.
I get it. I actually really liked this one.
Yeah.
I was a little bit, I think the beginning was a little bit slow, and I was sort of annoyed by, poor little rich girl, and her Ferrari and her boyfriend. But the more we got into it, it was actually really good. I liked it.
Yeah. So the book starts off, we meet Sherry Cooper, and we find out that she is, I would say she was like, well, first of all, we find out she's dead. Let me just back that up. So she immediately is like, I'm dead. I'm a ghost.
Yeah.
People might call me a ghost. I would like to be called a poltergeist. Don't know the difference between the two, but that's what I would want to be. And sorry. What kind of ghost do you want to be, Sam?
A spirit.
But we find out pretty quick that, something tragic has happened, but she kind of had it all. She had this boyfriend named Dan. He was kind of a dick.
He was kind of a dick.
And I think he really liked her mostly for her car, because she had her parents are rich. She's rich. They have a housekeeper.
Yeah.
She has an older brother, Jimmy. Or Jim, and who is opted out of college and is working.
Yeah.
And is dating the housekeeper's daughter, Amanda.
Yeah.
But Sherry's just like, she's that girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's blonde. She's cute. She has a hot car and a hot boyfriend. And they've been doing hot, sexy stuff. And she's living her best life.
It kind of reminded me of the beginning of like Veronica Mars. Did you ever watch Veronica Mars?
I love Veronica Mars.
Did too.
That was such a good show.
Good.
Yeah.
Where, at the beginning, in all the flashbacks, she's the same thing. She's the hot girl. It's Southern California. They're going to go, spend the summer on the beach, spooning and whatever you do on the beach. I don't know.
I like spooning.
It's sandy. I don't know what you do.
I know, like the crevices. As you said spooning, I'm like, whoa, where's the sand going?
They're
and all
just
my
hugging.
crevices. Yep.
It's PG-13. This is a children's book.
Well, this was not.
No, it wasn't.
They were fooling around pretty heavily, which I love, like that, fooling around.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Heavy petting.
Oh, that's so cringe.
So gross.
So as we started into the book, one thing that really, from the get-go, really got me was the way she described her own brother. Because it was a very, kind of bulging muscles and she really has a love for her brother.
Yeah.
We're literally 6 pages in, and she's just impressed by his muscles and different things a little bit. It was, not too much.
Yeah.
But just a little bit. I was just
she admires him a lot. She cares very deeply for her brother.
I agree. I just have I have a brother.
Yeah.
And I would never say any of those things about my brother.
I've talked about how my brother's strong. My brother's hella strong. And still to this day, he told me what he just, he was like, oh yeah, I got back into lifting. And then I banged out, an incredible amount of weight while just benching, just, for the heck of it. I'm like, damn, you're so strong. I've talked about that and how good at wrestling he was and how fit he was, but it never, there was a little,
it wasn't
full incesty.
No, but it was just a little bit one step too far.
Yeah, I've never talked about my brother's muscles.
Maybe it's
other than
we're
saying
older sisters though.
Oh yeah, and my brother was
because we're older sisters.
4 years younger than me.
Mine's 6. So
half the time I was like, he's a Muppet. And then the other half, I was like, oh, he's also a Muppet who wrestles. Good job, bud. Now he's like a person, but now he's like my buddy. But yeah, there was a couple points where I was like, all right, it's your brother. That's cool.
Yeah, let's bring it down again.
But she does.
Notch.
She does like look up to him a lot. And
Yes.
it's like probably the most important relationship in her life.
Oh,
more
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she even mentions like she gets a little bit jealous of his girlfriend Amanda because Amanda's beautiful.
Yeah.
And they have, they're starting to like kind of go off and just be a couple without her. And
I didn't think that was so creepy because like
I don't think it's creepy. It was just,
But that part you can kind of like relate to in some sense because like when you're, I don't know, not that I felt like jealous or anything. That sounds weird. But, when my brother and both my brother and my sister started like hanging out more with, their
Significant
partners
others,
and their significant others, I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm very happy for them. And I love my in-laws like to death. I love my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law to death. But there is like a moment where you're like, oh, you were kind of my buddy and now you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
And that's good, but I'll miss my buddy.
I have the same feelings about my brother. I love his partner. I think she's amazing. But I was like, guys, I want to hang out too. Hang out with me. It's a little bit sad. But
what you do?
Hey, you guys, you guys have inside jokes? What is it about? Maybe not.
Leaving. Bye. But no, I think that part I sort of like, yeah, I get that when you think you're like kind of losing your like all-time buddy.
Yeah.
But even though
it's
fine.
Yeah. So Amanda comes over at Sherry's getting ready for this party at Beth's house. And her and Dan are going to go to this super fun party.
Yeah.
With her best friend.
And to the girl she doesn't really even like.
She doesn't. And she buys her some crappy, and it's Beth's birthday.
Yeah.
And she buys her like a record album that she knows she's going to hate.
It's like a Led Zeppelin one. Because she got
Beatles.
it. Oh, the Beatles. Yeah. Because she got it on sale.
So they're getting ready to go. And I think as I recall, Amanda kind of got hoisted like, hey, you should take Amanda too. Who Amanda, who is the brother's girlfriend, is also the housekeeper's daughter. Yeah. And Sherry and the housekeeper are very close to each other. Yeah. So anyway, they get all ready to go. And Dan's very annoyed that they can't take her sports car because they have to pick everyone up.
Again, he likes the car more than anything.
Yeah.
But he's
very
also,
much so.
also
there's a part where he's like kicking the tires and like, it's like, calm down, sir. Like, what are you doing? Also, like, you're not a mechanic. And what does kicking the tires do?
I'm not a mechanic. I wouldn't
know.
know.
Maybe it's actually like serves a purpose and I'm just stupid. But
maybe it's checking the inflation of the tire.
I feel like that's a lie. Like, I feel like that wouldn't, right? That just doesn't, anyway, doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. He's kind of bummed. And then he's a little bit annoyed that they have to pick up Joe, who is Sherry's best friend.
Yes.
And those two don't get along that well.
Well, and also Joe knows that maybe Sherry and her boyfriend had a somewhat disappointing sexual experience.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
And she makes a comment, and that really pisses off the boyfriend.
Yeah.
What's the boyfriend's name again?
Dan. Dan and his member.
Dan couldn't go the distance in some sense. Or, it wasn't.
In a lot of senses.
Which is normal and natural.
Yeah.
But Joe makes a comment that implies that she knows, and Dan's pretty pissed off about that.
Yeah. Which, fair.
Yeah, Joe should have made the comment.
I mean, yeah, she could have thought it or said it whispered later.
But I think the comment wasn't even like that. It was sort of an innocuous thing, and then Dan...
He knows. He's sensitive about it.
Yeah, he's sensitive, so he might have been oversensitive.
So anyway, they get to Beth's condo, and her parents live in this gated building community. And because everybody's rich except for Amanda and her family, which forgot to say, Amanda is actually Joe's cousin. So their moms are sisters.
Yes.
And Joe's mom's a lot more fun. Amanda's mom is very like religious and stuffy.
Joe's mom just like smokes and nurses, right? That's like what she does.
Oh, yeah.
She's not that fun. She just smokes and nurses.
Well, she feels more fun than the other mom.
She's probably a little bit more relatable, but Sherry has like a really close bond with Mrs.
Parrish.
Yeah, Mrs. Parrish, the religious lady.
Annie Hoot Nanny. So Amanda and Joe are cousins. Yeah. And you have to know all this because it's going to come up.
Yeah.
Because
But they don't really act like it.
No, because their families aren't close. There was a falling out between the sisters and they don't talk or anything.
Yeah,
so.
they're not that close.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They're close enough to party together.
Yeah.
Parties bring people together. So they go to this party. It's happening. It's cool. Beth and Dan end up in the hot tub.
And her top's off or some shit like that. There is a recurring theme in all of these books with one boobalicious babe.
Yeah, who's slightly bullied.
Yes, leave the big boob girl alone. All of these books, leave her alone.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Brittany alone.
Oh my gosh. That's one of my favorite internet memes of all time.
Chris Crocker, baby. Yeah,
so good.
That was one of the original ones. Leave Brittany alone. Well, leave the booby girls alone.
Yes, Chris Crocker is on TikTok, so if you ever want an update,
I cannot get on TikTok.
or they are out there. Yes,
I have far too many. No, I'm already obsessive as it is.
Absolutely no.
I do
I'll just
not.
send you them when I find them.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so are my siblings. I like that too.
So the party's kind of raging and they're all having fun, whatever. It's like an 80s party. And then it starts to die down.
Yeah.
And we're kind of left with like this small group. So it's Dan and Beth, Joe, Amanda, Sherry, and then this guy named Josh. Jeff.
The brother
of this guy named Peter who passed away a year ago.
Who Sherry was like quite close with actually and was sad about the death of this person.
Yes. Joe is very into the occult. Like she is like mini witch, which it's cool.
She's burning sage.
Yeah,
she's doing crystals.
Sam loves crystals, by the way.
I like geology, not crystals.
I'm always like, Sam, what crystal will help me to feel better about my life?
You keep threatening to go to the gym and mineral show and like
embarrassing her and her partner, just being like, guys, which one is going to help me to my indigestion, and which one can I bathe in moonlight to?
Oh my gosh!
And if that's your thing, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be.
If it makes you feel better, I have little like tokens and talismans and things that I keep with me that like give me a positive response, and I like them, and I keep I keep some stuff in my bag that's like equally to
my dad was a crystal guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Fred
was a crystal guy. He's gone now, but he also was he really liked Buddha statues too.
Yeah.
So he had a collection of like jade Buddha statues in his house. In our house, sorry. It's already happening, guys. And then I would buy him like crystals sometimes for healing and stuff. He was into it. So
my sister-in-law, she's a crystal girl.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of fun because then I get to buy her cool crystals.
Yeah.
And we like them for not the different reasons, but I get to buy her cool crystals, which is like really fun. I like the geology side of it. I get to buy her cool specimens. And
I just want to state for the record that like I'm not against crystal girls or crystal ladies, crystal people, whoever. I'm not a fan of like goop crystal.
Don't put a jade egg in your hooey.
Yeah,
Jade is incredibly porous.
Yeah.
Like just for health reasons.
Yeah.
It's very porous.
Yeah. I mean, you can't clean that out. Bacteria, put it back in. Anyway, so if we're misinformed, let us know in the comments, guys. Okay, so they go to the party. It's winding down. Joe's like, hey, guys, you know what time it is? Time to bring out the Ouija board. We're going to invoke a spirit.
I think we've talked about this before because didn't Go Ask Alice, they brought out a Ouija board too?
I think so, yeah.
Did you do Ouija board?
Oh, yeah.
Same.
But I had like the Parker brothers Ouija board. So
bought at Target.
Yeah, it was not... okay, so my friend Jill and I think we were in middle school and we were doing Ouija board in my room. It was two of us, so it doesn't even really work, But I had a candle burning and the candle was kind of low, and all of a sudden the flame went from like a normal yellow flame to a purple flame. Oh. And she freaked out and threw the board across the room, and it was like a whole thing. So
yeah, we used to sit out on my friend's trampoline and do Ouija board a lot when I was like a kid, middle school. It's like the time when you kind of go through that era. Yeah. I went through my like witchy era. I like, because that's what the kids talk about these days, the eras.
Yes.
Yeah. I at least that's what they're talking about on Drag Race. I had a witchy era where I like painted a wand and was on like astrology.com a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody does.
Absolutely. I even do some of that now. So like if I'm having a really bad day, I will go look at my horoscope for the day.
Oh, I do it every year. Kevin gets so frustrated because he's such a like physics guy. And then I'm like, do you want to know your horoscope for the year? And he's like, no, but you're going to tell me anyway. And I'm like, yes, you're going to be lucky in love.
You're like, congratulations. Here I am.
You're going to find new love.
With who?
No. It's I always like reading it just because it's kind of fun to see and to sort of imagine like a future-y type thing.
What sign are you?
Oh, Libra.
I'm a Sagittarius.
Okay.
When I read about it, like my sign though, it is I'm like, it all lines up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do that for every other sign. I don't think that, I'm not, anyway. I don't know. I don't know what to believe.
My sister-in-law read
into
like
it.
my star chart thing and on the day I was born and with day and time and all that. And there were some things that were kind of like, it was like a little uncanny.
Yeah.
There was a little bit where I was like, oh, okay. I would say that's true. But, who knows if it's just happenstance.
Well, I mean, Joe's really into this and they decide to I think Amanda goes first. Or Beth. I can't remember which one of the girls goes first. And
they do the magnet thing.
Yes.
Basically light as a feather, stiff as a board with questions.
Yes. And then she swaps out with Sherry. And then they decide to try to contact Peter, Jeff's dead brother, on the other side, which is kind of effed up.
That's kind of insensitive to Jeff, who's also watching his girlfriend, who is Beth, take her top off in a hot tub with somebody else's boyfriend.
I forgot they were dating.
They are, yeah. They're all.
It was very modular. That's not the right word, but that's what I'm using.
It's high school.
Interchangeable. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You just swing around and swap around and whatever.
So Joe's doing this whole thing, but Sherry goes into a trance. Sherry starts saying some things and it gets real intense real fast.
Yeah.
And then they just stop kind of right before it really, they really make real contact and she's exhausted now. And so they kind of all disperse throughout Beth's house to kind of regroup. And again, the party for the most part, it's just the few of them. So Sherry goes out onto the balcony. She's looking out.
Some fresh air.
I mean, of course, Beth has, a view of the ocean from her bedroom.
Rich girl.
So nice. And anyway, and the next thing she knows, game over.
Yeah. She goes home.
She goes home. She wakes up the next day. She doesn't know how she got home. She starts talking to her family. They are ignoring her. She's like, what is going on? And then they get a phone call and they are frantic. Something terrible has happened. And she gets in the car with them and they get to the morgue and she's on the slab.
Surprise, girl, you dead.
You're dead. And it was a shock to say the least. And I think it was even more shocking for her as everybody thought she did it on purpose.
Yeah, that part where she was like, why would I had everything. Why would everybody think I'd want to kill myself? You know? Yeah.
Her reaction to seeing herself in the morgue and her
crushed skull
was not great. She landed headfirst on the cement. So
no, I mean, can you imagine how shocking that would be? It's very, I see dead people shock or a ghost.
Did you ever watch Dead Like Me?
No.
It was a great series in the 90s, early 2000s. It must have been early 2000s.
Yeah.
And it was about this girl who, her name's Georgia. I think it might be based on a comic. I'm not 100%. But she is walking, trying to go, she's kind of like a slacker, not really trying to figure out life and not really there yet. And she's going to a job interview or her first week on the job or something. And she gets hit by a toilet that fell out of an airplane or something.
Hilarious.
Yeah. And she becomes a Grim Reaper.
And
shit. So she is, it's a great series. I will link it, but it's really good. But it's just that thing of recognizing your own mortality, death, whatever.
And being in the worst way, sort of confronted with it, it's the Scrooge moment, right? Where he sees everybody celebrating his death and stuff,
Yeah.
She sees everybody reacting to her death. She sees her boyfriend reacting to her death.
Her best friend.
Yeah.
And then I think she passes out for 3 days or something. She's so overcome. And then she ends up at her funeral.
Yeah.
And she's very sad at the turnout.
Yeah.
It was not great.
No. And there's she's also frustrated because everybody thinks that she killed herself.
Yeah.
And so she's also left with this stigma of suicide.
Yes.
Which is, really people don't want to go to be seen with her. But she has this moment where she sees Mrs. Parrish praying at her funeral for her soul. And she sees the light over Mrs. Parrish. And in some sense, it's a bit comforting to her.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I can't imagine. Hope that's not how it goes down for me.
Yeah.
Right.
I would go to your funeral.
Have you ever thought about that? If I died tomorrow, who would be at my funeral? It's kind of morbid, but
I've always wondered if people would be sad or if they'd be ding dong, the witch is dead.
Okay, definitely option 1.
Okay, there'd be some sad people, but yeah, I don't know. I do wonder that sometimes, but at the same time, there's also a part of me that like just doesn't want to know.
Yeah. Doesn't.
Yeah.
I was sitting in a funeral once with my dad, and one of his friends had passed away.
Yeah.
I didn't know the person. We were just sitting there talking. Yeah. And my dad, he looks at me, he's like, what'd be real funny is if like you were at a funeral and then all of a sudden they got on the microphone and said like, hey, so-and-so really, is sad they can't be with you anymore, but they actually, really wish they could be with you forever. And they flipped on the air conditioning and like ashes just like covered everybody.
That's so messed up.
And I just looked at my dad like, this is what you're thinking about right now? At your friend?
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah. Like I was like, okay, Fred, that's next level. That's next level.
That's so funny.
Like, why would you do that? But yeah, he was that kind of guy.
Have you thought about what you would want your funeral to be? I've thought about that.
Yeah, I would just want a party. Yeah.
I want a full kegger. I want there to be shots. I want there to be like, I want you to make the cocktails off my cocktail list. I want everybody to get drunk and dance and have a good time. Mm-hmm. You can be sad for a little bit, but then I really don't want people to be sad. I want people to be
not
like,
at the funeral or the after party. Yeah.
But I want there to be like a full like rager afterwards.
Yeah. I
want them to play like, all of my Spotify playlists or something and just like rage on.
I don't know. I have a feeling. I mean, I feel like that's like when you're young, if you pass away early or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, if I pass away at 89, like most everybody I know is probably gone too.
But I want the other 89-year-olds to get
to just
turned.
Get crazy.
I just want them to get fucked up.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, just like a bunch of old people like doing like Jello shots. That's what I want. No, that actually, I thought about that a lot with like, as Kev's grandmother got older, she would just, you get more frank about it, I think, about death. Because like, she's like, yeah, I knew this person and then they died. And then I knew this person and then they died. And in some sense, it was, as a young person, it sort of took, it takes you a little bit by surprise when she says it with just such like, she's just so frank about it.
It's just everyday life.
Yeah. But like at some point, that is what happens.
Yeah. I mean, my grandpa's 105. He just turned 105. And it's very like, I was asking him some questions and it was like, yeah, like all his people are gone,
Yeah.
He's kind of the last one standing out of his like brothers, sisters, he's the patriarch of the family at this point.
I don't want to, in some sense, like that's a really lonely position. But in some sense, I don't want my like friends to be sad.
Yeah.
So I don't want to die before them.
Yeah.
Like,
I would rather make it like, this year.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
This week.
And not get murdered. Like, that's honest. Like, one day, again, I'm Fred's daughter. So I was sitting just thinking about life. This was years ago. And I was like, you know what, Adam, all my friends are probably going to be the one to get murdered. And I was like, why are we thinking like that right now?
You are incredibly cautious. I would not put you as the first to get murdered.
Yeah.
No.
It's not. I know. It just.
But it is a weird, it's like these like call of the void mortality thoughts.
Yeah.
That like.
Well, and I feel at the age I was reading this book.
Yeah.
Because I read a lot of books where people passed in whatever in horrific ways, because that's what you do at that age. But I remember I'd lay in bed and be like, what is it like to be dead? And I was trying to like not be conscious. Yeah. And it was like, you can't. And I was like, but it was like my brain was like trying to think it through. And I was like, what are we doing? Okay, go to bed, please.
But I think that's like, that sort of ties together so many things about this age group, right? With like, when you read this book and kind of the time that those kids are, maybe they're a little older than that age, but this is that age where you grapple with mortality and your brain's not fully developed. So you don't really understand risk and stuff, but you really are trying to understand as best you can, like what does it mean to be dead? What does it mean to not be here? What is spirituality? A lot of the books we've read, they really do have this theme where they like, you're grappling with life, death, the beyond, God, etc. This book touches that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the funeral,
she's
recognized she's gone, but she still has this like trying to poke at people almost, like trying to like get attention. And finally she gets the attention of somebody, Peter. And she's like, you can see me kind of thing. And so Peter and her who's also a ghost.
Yeah.
He goes to her funeral and they kind of reconnect.
Yeah.
And she's very excited now to have somebody.
She was quite fond of him. Her Peter's brother is really kind of nasty to her at some point because he didn't really like her that much.
Yeah.
And Peter did like her a lot.
Yeah.
But she also is like frustrated because she liked Peter a lot. They were like friends, and she always talks about how he made her laugh. And there's even a point where she's a bit like sad because Peter gave Joe these stories, or no, Jeff gave Joe Peter's stories.
Yeah.
And Sherry is kind of like, why wouldn't I get those stories? But
Yeah.
it's partially because Joe's like a freaky witch girl.
True.
Yeah. Get it.
I thought it was interesting too because like there's a part where Sherry mentions that like the reason why she didn't go to she didn't go to Peter's funeral.
Yeah.
And it was because she was so sad.
Yeah.
And like it just spoke because it was one of those situations too where he was not necessarily in the popular crowd.
Yeah.
He was definitely more alternative. But it was just they clicked. And anyway, so they get together and he's kind of like, okay. And she had started seeing like, she can see like different light strands and things. And so the light's kind of like calling her, but she's kind of hesitant.
Yeah.
And, anyway, but Joe, Peter's like, hey, you need to go into the light. You know, like it's time for you to pass. She's like, no, I want to figure out who killed me.
Yeah. I didn't jump.
Yeah. And then he kind of reluctantly decides to help her on her quest.
Yep.
And he's like, all right, first lesson is how to teleport.
Yeah.
Basically, or how to like, she is not a fan.
She can't do it.
Not a fan.
She's really bad at it.
Really bad. And he says this really inspirational thing, which I like. He's like, you're not learning to do it. You're unlearning the belief that you can't do it. Try again without trying. Okay. My new mantra for life.
Just paint that on a piece of barn wood and sell that shit on Etsy.
It's so good. So he really tried with her and then it was just like hard pass. Does not work. But she decides that she wants to start investigating her murder.
Yeah.
And there is a detective that's been assigned who is Lieutenant Garrett.
Have you ever watched Bob's Burgers?
No.
Oh, there's this like really kind of ineffective police officer who's very gruff and drinks a lot of coffee and is like all the time. I just kept imagining Garrett as I can't remember the officer's name, but the officer from Bob's Burgers, the animated show.
That's who it was.
So yeah, he's sort of like, in some sense, he's kind of a trope. It's like, you know, grizzled officer, but with a heart of gold because his daughter does drugs now.
Which we find out in this universe, if you do drugs, you can see the spirit. What is it? The spirit plane. Because they go, so they're following Lieutenant Peter and Sherry are following Lieutenant Garrett to see kind of track him on the trail.
Yeah.
And he goes
to see if he can drive because he's been drinking like a ton. We do not condone that, by the way. My husband's picking me up later.
But they find out his daughter is a pretty serious addict, but she can see them in the room.
Which
when they're
does mean that every guy I met in LA who talked about their transformative experience with the dead at Burning Man might have been actually telling the truth.
You shouldn't have mocked them.
I'm continuing to mock them. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Burning Man burnout. You are right. You could see the dead and connect with the other astral planes. Good job.
Have you ever connected to a ghost or seen a ghost?
No. I mean, I had like creeped myself out and got freaked out by stuff. But and I cannot watch the ghosty shows. My mom likes to watch the ghosty shows before she goes to bed, which I just like would rather watch you know, diners, drive-ins, and dives. But I think in some sense, like did you ever watch the show? There used to be a show on BuzzFeed called BuzzFeed Unsolved. And it was two guys going, there's always like a true crime season and then a supernatural season. And in the supernatural season, they would go and visit haunted places or spend the night in a haunted house or go to a bridge where there's supposedly like a goat man that haunts the bridge.
A goat man.
There's one with the goat man. It's very good. It's actually really funny. But there's one of them that definitely believes and one of them that just makes fun of the guy that believes. And then they walk around with the spirit box and they have all the like cameras and stuff that like the ghost hunters do. And he's sort of the guy, the very like sort of the straight man guy. He sort of just mocks the other guy. I'm definitely more in the mocky side where I don't know if I kind of think that even if there were ghosts, I don't believe in it enough that I would see a ghost.
I have seen several in my life. I was susceptible to ghosts. And as much as I made fun of the crystal girlies, you'll know now that I'm probably one of you. So, yeah, I've had a couple experiences.
Wait, tell me.
So the first one, well, I've had many, but like, I was living in Chicago and I was going to school. I lived in this apartment in the South Loop. It used to be an old YMCA at some point. And I remember my bed was like in the corner. So it's like my back, when I laid facing the wall, my back was like out into the yonder of my room. And I was reading a book or something. And all of a sudden I had the strongest presence of like, like when you're around little kids and they're just staring at you. It was that. There was like just 3 or 4 little kids just sitting kind of like on their knees and crisscross applesauce, like by me, like waiting for me to read them a book or entertain them. And it was so strong. I could feel them. Like
did you read the book?
No, I literally, though, it was long enough that I was like, all right, guys, it's time for you to go now. You're going to need to go. And then they dissipated. But it was like, I couldn't turn. And I refused because I was facing the wall. Yeah. And I could not turn over. I was like, mm-mm.
Do you think it was a ghost or do you think it was like a night terror?
I was wide awake, like 100%.
Gosh. Okay.
Like I've had lots of like creepy, crawly feelings.
I think some element of it, I don't know. Part of me thinks that, if you do believe, I don't know I don't know.
Do I think I saw a real ghost? I don't know. What do I know?
Maybe though.
I mean, if physics tells me, just kidding. I don't know. But there's different dimensions and there's different things. Like there's energies that we don't, that are around us and
there's
forces.
Things we don't understand.
I mean, it could have been a lot of things. Do I think it was 5 little children from the YMCA that perished in the building during a fire? Probably. The most, like I've had some really terrifying experiences with the supernatural. Like, I was in college. I was at Western Washington University and I was living in dorms, and one night I was like having the most vivid dream about this girl that was being tortured. Not like tortured, but like emotionally tortured. Like she was really struggling at college and she lived in my dorm room and I'm like living it through her eyes. Yeah. And then all of a sudden she took her own life. Oh. And then she came back to me and it was the most visceral. I've never had a night terror before, but I woke up and I was terrified. I was so scared that it got to the point where I was asking like the RA and different people, hey, did somebody die in my room? Because it was that presence was so strong. So that was super fun.
That would kind of ruin my month.
Yeah. It actually like I've never in my life experienced anything like it since, thankfully. But it was so terrifying. And I don't know. I think that's why I like these types of books. I don't know. It's just weird.
No. I think I think that's. So I will say one thing about this is while I don't necessarily think I've had an experience with the supernatural or anything like that, I also don't. I don't
call it into your life.
God, no. Outside of like the playing Ouija board as a kid. I don't fuck with demons like that stuff. Like I feel no need to like. If it's
test the waters.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it's true, if it's not true, and I don't necessarily think it is, that's great. I just continue on my life. But if it is true, you goofed. Yeah. Like you fucked with demons.
Yes.
That's bad.
That's bad. I can't even watch. I cannot even watch the trailers of scary movies. No, nothing. That's anything that is spiritual.
I don't need that in my. That's 100% true. 100% true.
And I like horror films. Like I will watch a slasher film, things like that are like so. To me, like Jason and that stuff is so far fetched, or Scream. I'm like whatever. But if the second it becomes like, I mean, I tried to watch It. The new version. Yeah. I lasted for the first like quarter of the movie and I had to turn it off and I was watching it in the middle of the day and I was so terrified. I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah. I couldn't even watch the Paranormal Activity trailer.
No.
That gave me nightmares. I can't do that. And so there was one of these episodes of BuzzFeed Unsolved where they go talk to a priest and the guy who doesn't believe, Shane, is very flippant about it. And I remember telling Kevin like, yeah, okay, I'm generally with Shane on these things, but I don't
just in case. It's my insurance card. I'm not going to open myself up to that.
I don't want to like, I don't know if I believe in full on like exorcism or any of that, but
I'm not going to watch The Exorcist again.
No.
Watch that when I was like 9. Not appropriate.
Hey, I have a joke. I have a joke.
What?
What happens if you don't pay your exorcist?
What?
You get repossessed.
Stop.
Our priest told that joke in mass at one point.
That's amazing.
In grad school. Shout out to Father Chris. Funniest church joke I've ever heard. I really like that joke.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Thanks.
So Sherry and Peter are kind of running around. They're following the They're following the detective. They're starting to like stalk her friends and kind of see their reactions, but they're also themselves being stalked by the shadow.
The shadow. Yeah.
And it's like, it's different for each one of them.
Yes.
But it's freaking terrifying.
This made me think of Ghost, where the creepy shadow people pull the people to hell.
That was too much.
No, that when I was a kid, that scared the shit out of me. And then I watched it as an adult and was like, that's terrible CG.
Yes. Yep.
But it's so scary.
It was so scary. When I was growing up, we had a ranch style house. So it was just like room after room, not open concept. And it was like, it went like living room, dining room, kitchen, family room. And the family room was where like the dryers were at the very far corner, and it was so dark in there. And we didn't have a smart house or anything, so you couldn't see like dining room lights on, please, or living room. Like it was.
I still don't have a smart house. I had to go flip my switches manually.
That's for the paupers. Got to get yourself a $50 Hue bulb. Not sponsored. Anyway, but when I was growing up, it was so dark out there. Those shadows from Ghost, that was the feeling out there.
Yeah.
And so there'd be times I'd like go out to the kitchen for a drink of water. If I didn't turn the light on, that feeling would overcome me and I'd have to book it to my room.
Yes.
Get under the covers. And I was just like so scared. And it didn't last just through like being a little kid. It was all the way up. Like I moved home from college. I would still have that feeling. Like at one point I asked my parents, did something happen? Like, did we buy ground that belonged, well, it obviously belonged to other people, but that this ground was sacred or something? Like what is going on that this feels so like it wants me out of the house?
Yeah. That's like creepy. Yeah, I was definitely a sleep with the hallway light on type of person because I don't like the creepy darks. But no,
thank you.
And then after Ghost, that really ruined Shadows.
Oh yeah,
but I just kept thinking of Ghost with the shadow.
Well, and the shadow, this shadow thing was really scary.
Yeah,
it was super scary.
Yeah.
So there's a big chunk of this book is just like Sherry running around and trying to figure out who killed her and what's going on and the ins and outs. And they're kind of like her and Peter, like they'll see their shadows and they run from them. And finally Sherry's like, I'm going to confront my shadow.
Yeah.
Like I need to get over this. And so she goes over to Beth's house and she like scales the fence. It just cracks me up because she could just teleport, but she just mentally cannot.
She Spider-Woman's.
Yes.
She up the drain post, just shimmies her way.
And she goes to the spot where she died and the shadow is there.
Yeah.
And she goes basically into the shadow.
Well, she dives off. She jumps off the balcony into the shadow.
Yeah. And then the shadow shows her a lot of things.
Yes. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. So basically Sherry gets like, this is your life.
Yeah. She gets to relive her birth.
Yeah. And come to find out, she's not who she thought she was.
Yeah.
So there was an incident at the hospital she was at where she was switched.
Yeah.
And we find out that Sherry Cooper, her parents are actually Joe's dad and Mrs. Parrish.
Yes. Who were having an illicit affair. So Joe's dad is having an affair with her aunt. They get pregnant. And Joe's mom is so upset about it, she switches the babies. Yes.
And so Amanda is actually...
She should be Amanda Cooper.
She should be Amanda Cooper. It's Jimmy's sister, who they're dating now, which is great. And...
just full on Luke and Leia vibes.
Yes.
Gross.
And she's lived this life of being kind of like poor and having a hard time, watching her mom and herself have to go and clean someone else's house that has everything that's about the same age. Yep. And that was her life. Mm-hmm. And so Sherry realized she was switched at birth. There's all this backstory. Her best friend is now her half sister and cousin.
Yep. And it turns out Mrs. Parrish, who she has a like strong affinity towards, is actually her mother.
Yes, which it makes sense because she said she wanted to see her mom at one point, like when she first passed away, and she woke up in Mrs. Parrish's house.
Yeah.
And we didn't know why, but now we do. Mm-hmm. And so Sherry's eyes are now open, but she's also confronted her shadow. So she has a lot more power, which is good, I guess.
Yeah. She, the shadow is different for everybody. And her shadow is basically that's following her around is her unknown past.
Yes.
Right. That's the thing that's actually haunting her life. And that's frankly the thing that ends up leading to her death.
Yes. And I know at the same time, Lieutenant Garrett is like doing some research and he realizes something is up with Amanda.
Yes. So he's got his diagram he's made with the crisscrossy dotted lines that they see. He has, interrogated everybody. They hop a lot of free rides in his truck, hop around town. But they basically, he starts to put it together.
And I feel like Amanda feels a little bit like it's closing in. A little bit because of her choices that she makes.
So she's at this point has sort of absconded with the brother.
Yeah. So Sherry's parents decide to go out of town.
Yeah, they need to get away.
And so Jimmy's like, hey, gotta bring my girlfriend over.
Yeah.
And we find out that through this too, Jimmy's a diabetic.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we find that out very early,
very
right? Because Amanda's like messing around in his supply.
Yeah.
Turns out she's also a diabetic.
Yeah.
And also has the same color eyes.
Yeah.
And the same hair.
Yeah.
And the color blindness.
And they look the same.
And they look the same. Yeah. Gross. But
Amanda makes up a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And since she's alone with Jim, she's trying to they have a fire on, which I don't know what time of year this is, but I thought it was weird that they had a fire.
If it's raining, it might be LA in the like winter, which is cold.
Okay.
I mean, I imagine if it's raining.
Okay.
Like
it was probably that. Okay.
Yeah,
so they are in bathrobes and laying in the living room.
They're eating a whole cake and some wine because nothing says let's get sexy like pounding cake and wine.
Well, and she's trying to get him, and he's like, I probably good get, and she's trying to get it in.
No, take a little more. But
and then she's like, oh, he's like, I'm gonna need a shot. She's like, let me give it to you.
Ugh.
So weird.
Yeah. Well,
so weird.
I think there's more.
There's
than
a lot
just
going on.
Weird. Yeah, she's, she talks about, the last time I had cake, Sherry gave it to me and I felt bad. And she's like kind of talking bad about Sherry to her brother.
And Sherry literally has just died.
Yeah. It's pretty she's pretty
gross.
Messed
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty messed up. And so it becomes evident that Amanda has no good plans. She is going to be doing something really horrible to Jim. And she loads up a vial of insulin.
Yeah. For 10 times the dose he should undergo.
And is trying to make it happen. All the while, Lieutenant Garrett is on the trail.
Yeah.
He's kind of rushing over there. But Peter and Sherry get there first. And Sherry's like...
Sherry learns to fly.
Yeah. And she's like, Peter, do something. And she had found out before that Peter was the one that actually entered her body during the seance. And so she's like, enter his body, and he's like, it's hard for me to do.
A little bit.
Yeah. And he's able to get Amanda to not be able to give her brother the shot. And then she tried to give the brother the air shot.
Yeah. So she gives him the shot. He passes out. And then she tries to give him the air bubbles to give him a heart attack. And at this point, she goes into her full syndrome monologue of yes, I am your sister. And I killed who you thought was your sister, who's not your sister. And
yeah.
I hated her. And she goes full monologue, full evil villain. And just tries to kill him.
And then Sherry goes into his dream, which is something she was able to...
Well, she goes into the bubble and it's weird.
Yes.
This part was a little weird.
I was like, what's happening again? But she is able to help dissipate the bubble.
Yeah, so she talks to Jimmy. He's like, well, maybe I'll just die and then we can hang out some more. And she's like, you're not supposed to die. You need to pop the balloon that you're holding because it's actually a bubble in your heart. But then the other thing they sort of deal with is that they talk about they have the black soot in the dream on their hands, and it's hate for Amanda, and so they need to forgive her for them to be able to pop the balloon.
Yeah,
because in some sense, and they kind of hit this at the end, is that Amanda, while definitely full supervillain mode right now, she's heard her mother praying in the night about God keep them from banging because they're siblings, and she knows, she's heard her mom talk about it. She knows who she is, and she's angry and she's resentful. Sherry grew up in a mansion and I grew up with the poors, and she's got a lot of baggage to carry. So I'm not justifying her obviously trying murder and attempted murder, but she really has had to deal with something that with effectively the sins of her mother's.
Yeah.
Her mother and her aunt.
Yeah.
Or who she thinks is her mom and her aunt. So they have to get rid of the soot That's me getting soot off my hands. They get rid of the soot and they're able to like pop the bubble.
Yes. And then Lieutenant Garrett and the like cavalry show up.
Yeah, they stop the funeral pyre that she's like trying to build.
It's like, it's wild. Like she really was going out with some style.
Yeah.
But
blaze of glory.
And so Sherry and Peter go outside and like now the brothers like getting put on the gurney and all the stuff is happening. It kind of reminds me, there was this Waffle House sketch on SNL recently.
Oh yes,
where it's like that. It's like this couple's like breaking up or having a conversation. Like
and one's gonna go to college.
Yeah. And then behind it's like the whole like the girl with the chair at Waffle House scene. And it's everything is just going off, but it's so calm outside. Yeah. It reminded me of that because it was just like, this is still a shit show. Yeah. Like it's wild what's happening. And her and Peter are just talking now.
Yeah. Like, there's like a scene even like mid fight where like she's trying to convince Peter to jump in Amanda's body. And Peter's like, you know, it'd be a really good time right now to like confess my feelings.
Yes.
And he like stops midway and is like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And I was happy for that.
Yes. Well, and going back a little bit, we do find out that Peter's death was not accidental.
Yes.
And that's part of like why he's had a hard time facing his shadow and facing up to his own. He's got
a lot of like guilt,
stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he talks about, you know, all the reasons that he, and I think this actually hits at something kind of important and poignant, which is that, you know, Sherry's like, I don't understand why you would have killed yourself because like you had everything. And he's like, well, I just torn my rotator cuff, which I guess Tommy John's surgery or whatever, that it wasn't a thing at that point as to the way it is now. So I just torn my rotator cuff and you wouldn't date me and everything was kind of going bad and I was depressed and she gets really frustrated because she's like, well, I would have dated you. You just had to ask me, you know, you didn't shoot your shot. So like we could have had fun. That's what she says. We could have had a lot of fun. And he, you know, realizes he kind of messed up, but he kind of talks about that too. He realizes he messed up right as he's dying too. That like, oh, I shouldn't have
oops,
ridden my. But you talk they like interview people who were rescued jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge and stuff. They all say the same thing, right? Yeah. I realized that I had made a mistake, but now they're together in the afterlife, and
they are.
And she's like, you can kiss me, and he's like, only if I get to see your bubbies.
Oh, I forgot that part.
Oh, it says because she talks about did you watch me while I showered?
Oh yeah,
and then she's like, well, he said something about what do I owe you? And she says 2 years of kisses, and he says only if you take your top off. And I was like, oh, you guys are fucking high schoolers.
Okay, I gotta say though, that shit scared me when I was a kid because
ghosts seeing you naked,
people that have passed. So in my kid brain, first of all, God's always watching. So I'm like, every time I was in the, not every time, but there'd be times in the shower that I'd be just like, God, are you looking at me right now? And then I had people pass when I was younger. And it was just like, you know, people will say like, oh, they're always with you. And I would be like, are they watching me in the shower? Are they watching me like go to the bathroom? Like I feel very violated to the point that when I was a kid, like we used to always have like National Enquirer and Star magazine because, you know, that was my dad's style. But if there was any pictures on anything in the bathroom, I thought the person could see me. So
like Harry Potter style.
Oh, it was bad. But like in my brain, and it lasted way longer than it should have. I would like, okay, Madonna's on the cover of this magazine. Right now, I'm, you know, whatever. And Madonna can see me right now. Like in her life, in her reality, she's like seeing this little brown girl and tries, you know.
Just like going to the bathroom.
Yeah. And I was just like, ooh. So I'd like close it. I'd have to flip things over. It was very problematic.
Did you ever read The Lovely Bones?
No, I saw the movie and it was horrific.
The book is good.
Okay.
The book was lovely. Well, I've never seen the movie.
The movie made me so sad. I'm like, never.
I mean, it's very sad. The book is also sad. Yeah. But there's like a scene where she sort of talks about like her sister and her sister's boyfriend decide to like finally have sex for the first time. And she talks about like, yes, and everybody looked away. You know, it's like, I hope that if that's true, the ghosties have the presence of mind and the kindness to not.
I don't want anybody seeing anything. No. Like, yeah. Like, I'm sorry, you're allowed to get freaky in your own home without the fear of ghosts watching.
You heard it here first.
So, Peter and Sherry are like, they've kind of come to peace with everything. And it's
she gets him to go towards the light even.
Yeah, they've decided they're gonna cross over. But she uses her brother's computer to type her own story. So we realize that the book was written by her.
Yeah.
Like
inhabiting her brother's body.
Yes,
and like
typing
making
away
him
at night.
type at night.
When he's
you imagine
sleepwalking.
how damn tired he was during the day?
Oh gosh.
He was just like, oh yeah, I didn't sleep well. And it's like, you know, your ghost sister was using your body to type a novel.
It's so sad.
His boss is like, why are you falling asleep on the job?
He's like, I don't know.
Oh,
And
man.
he's a sleepwalker too, so it's just extra
burden. How could she?
So at the very end of the book, I just want to read the last little bit because it just kind of made me smile. She said, yet I also have had selfish reason for wanting my story told. I was young when I died. I didn't have a chance to make my mark in the world. I didn't do anything unique, nothing that will change the course of history, but I wasn't a bad girl. I don't want to be forgiven. I want people to remember me. And
I like that.
Yeah.
I liked this whole book, actually.
It was actually pretty good.
Yeah. I thought this one was like, there wasn't a whole lot of problematic stuff. They were quite sensitive to issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, there wasn't a ton of representation. It was mostly a lot of rich white kids, but you know.
It's a lot less trigger warnings than many of the books we've read.
Way less than Angus Thongs.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez, Pete. But no, I thought that I liked that line too. I liked the, there's like an element of just being like accepting in some sense of like, not of like it kind of is accepting of mediocrity, but that, most of us aren't going to make huge impacts, but she did have impacts on other people's lives, and that's really all you can ask for. Yeah. And it wasn't all bad. Like she obviously
she had her moments.
Some things she wasn't great. She wasn't always the hero in her own story. Her giving the Beatles album to Beth was like such shit. Just such shitty thing.
She kind of talked badly about Amanda being like the token popper and different things. But that line I think stuck with me because I feel like that's where I'm at in life of like, listen, this is what it is. This is it. You're not going to be a history maker.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just like coming to terms with that, I think is a very real thing for most people.
Yeah. I just want like most of the people I've interacted with to come away with a positive feeling.
Exactly.
And like knowing that I haven't always been nice, but I hopefully haven't been bad or mean or cruel.
Seriously.
So maybe a little cranky and cruel sometimes, but like,
But not enough to count. Like I feel like that kind of gets washed away with the bigger picture when it's not your normal personality.
Hopefully.
Like if you're a dick all the time, people remember you as a dick. But if you're a dick once in a while, it's like most people give grace and are like, oh, must be having a bad day.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. So what are we feeling? What do we rate this book? Or let me see. Sounds like we both have positive feelings overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you taking away? What are you gonna give this one?
8 out of 10 I see dead peoples.
Okay. Love that.
It's good. It's like it's a little creepy, but not totally creepy.
Yeah.
It's kind of on a high note. It's a good murder mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah. They fall in love at the end.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. It was, and it was an interesting story. I mean, they didn't say this, but I would probably give it like a bucket full of banana clips. Yeah. Like that was a happy day.
Banana clips.
Do you not know what a banana clip is?
Like the butterfly clips?
No, it's kind of in the shape of a banana, but it has all these little like prongs.
Oh,
and it goes in the back of your hair.
Yeah.
But it's not a claw clip.
Okay, we used claw clips. I didn't have a banana clip, but I had the claw clip.
Yeah, I just feel like this is like banana clips and Aqua Net. Like it's a good time.
Yeah, it's not bad. She was probably gonna, they were probably bopping to some Wilson Phillips and having a great time.
Yeah. Well, technically Wilson Phillips wasn't out yet. That was 90.
Was it
90?
92? Oh, I thought 89.
89 would have been like something else.
What's going on?
Maybe would have been Paula Abdul.
Straight up now, tell me, do you really want to love me forever?
I feel like that came out around that time.
I love that song.
Oh my gosh. I used to love the one with the dancing cat too. Two opposites attract. I was like, this is a sexy video, and I am not sexy, but okay. But just like dancing wise, it was like it was so cool. Like
Paula Abdul is like an ex. She's
amazing. Yeah. That
excellent dancer.
That one video when they're on the scaffolding that was like, that is the vibe I want for my life. Do I have it? Absolutely not. But it's what I wanted.
I think my mom jazzercised to Paula Abdul straight up. Yeah.
That's one thing I miss from the 80s and like early 90s was just the
Aerobics.
the aerobic outfits.
Yeah.
They were something else.
Jazzertogs. My mom had a full collection.
I think it must have been like 90. So it's right around this time. My aunt sent me a gift for Easter and it was an exercise outfit. They were like floral bike shorts with a pink thong leotard.
Yep. Oh, my mom rocked that shit back.
And I was like, am I allowed to own this?
Yeah.
Because it was so scandalous.
You get it with the little slouchy socks. The socks
leg
that come
warmer.
up.
Yes.
Not full leg warmers.
I know what you're talking about.
Like in the 90s, they went from the leg warmer to the slouchy socks.
With the Reeboks. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that was my mom's
so
bop.
sexy.
And she had the little gray bike shorts and the Jazzertog, which was like the little leotard over top. And yeah. And like violet, like electric violet.
Oh, yeah.
And she had the double bang and was like,
Ooh,
and
that's
the,
a sexy
and the
look.
tight perm.
Oh.
She was very cool.
That's so
getting
good.
them glamour shots too. She has the one with the little bow tie and a little cowboy hat.
There was nothing else I wanted more in this world when I was like, in the late 80s, early 90s was to go to the glamour shots.
Do you know where there are still glamour shots? We looked this up in grad school.
That's
there are.
terrifying.
Do you want to guess the two states that still have glamour shots?
Missouri and Alabama?
No.
Oh, okay.
Kind of, but Texas.
Oh, makes sense. Okay.
And New Jersey.
100% makes sense.
At least in about 2015, that's the places that still, because we like made a joke about going and getting glamour shots.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun.
Yeah, my mom had them. She had the full
My
thing.
aunt got them too, and it was like, you look amazing.
They did a good job. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like for now, because of the technology of cameras and Facetune and makeup things, you can really make your own glamour shots, but it's not the same. But you can really like.
But can you get that blue background from Life Touch?
No, I don't think so.
From Life Touch school photos.
Well, speaking of school, we're taking a twist or a turn next month. We are reading our first Babysitters Club book.
Yay!
And it's a Babysitters Club mystery. Mallory and the Ghost Cat.
I'm just stoked for the inclusion of cats.
Me too.
Yeah, we're gonna next month is just gonna be like cat stories.
Yeah, prepare yourselves.
Yeah, Gizmo, Merlin,
for Telly.
They're all gonna feature prominently.
And on our socials, you're gonna be like, "Can you guys please stop?" No,
yeah. no,
absolutely not.
Gizmodo's got the best the best bleps.
The bleps? What's a blep?
Where his little tongue sticks out.
That's really cute. I've never seen my cat with her tongue out.
Oh, Gizmo occasionally forgets to. Gizmo is short for Guillermo from What We Do in the Shadows. Gizmo sometimes forgets to put his tongue in his mouth.
Love that for him.
Just doesn't fit.
Okay, that's really cute.
He's so cute.
So cute. So if you are enjoying our podcast, we would love it if you could leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the Boozy Book Report. And we do have some really, really exciting news, guys. We've charted. We never thought it would happen this soon because, we're only a few episodes in on this podcasting journey. But we just so happened sometime this spring, I think it was just like a month ago, we charted in Norway. We were 128 on, I think it was like Culture and Society or the books genre. So thank you. Shout out to all our Norwegians out there that are listening to Boozy Book Reports. We appreciate it. And we're looking forward to, working our way up the ranks.
Yeah. Thank you, Norway.
Thank you, Norway. Shout out Norway. So yeah, good times.
Yeah. A couple other quick things.
Yes.
Thanks to Kevin.
Yes.
My husband for driving us. And Boyana. She supplied a couple of the cocktail things today.
Yes. So big shout out there. And to the Finley Ghosts for creating our awesome intro music. Yeah. So yeah, we have lots of people out here that are friends and family and that are supporting us. And so we appreciate all of it.
We would not be able to talk about all of these ghosty book adventures if it weren't for our friends.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody. And thank you for listening.